Hey everybody, it's Edmund Vanderbilt with another episode of Once Around the Block. I'm here with the one, the only,
Omar Soliman.
Omar
What's up,
Soliman.
buddy?
How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I love the show.
Thank
It's a
you.
Great show.
Thank you for coming on it.
Yes, sir.
We've just been sort of brainstorming about the show.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great, like I said, it's a great product. It's authentic. I enjoy watching them. I definitely try to catch them when you post them. And
Awesome.
It's a cool format.
Awesome. For the viewers at home, who is Omar Soliman?
Let's see. Omar Soliman, born and raised in Washington, D.C. Spent more time in detention than I did in the library. Started a company called Hunks hauling junk when I was a young lad in college. Hunks is now a franchise business, so we have about 100 franchises across the country, about 1,500 employees, 750 trucks, and our headquarters is in Tampa, Florida.
So how come Tampa?
So I grew up in DC. I went to college in the University of Miami in Florida. Came back to DC, started the business. A big part of our business model is a call center. So we field all the calls for our franchisees out of our call center. And DC's a tough place for real estate.
Yes.
Expensive city, high cost of living.
Yeah.
Tampa just kept coming up on the list as being a good place to start a headquarters, have a call center. And so I moved down there about 9 years ago, and I've been there ever since. I'm just back here in DC on some business and checking up on things up here.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
So you still have connections to the DC area?
Yeah, so we, our College Hunks hauling junk in DC is still one of the biggest franchises we have, and I just came from a meeting with 10 of our top revenue producing franchises from across the country. So they all came into DC this week, and we sat in a room and talked about junk removal and moving.
So speaking of junk removal, I'm an artist. I was a creative guy in school. Like, my parents were like, "What are you doing?" Junk. You could say I'm going to start a junk business.
Right.
How did junk come out of there? I'm just saying, like, it's not the first thing you might think of.
Yeah. So I mean, when we told our friends and family that we're going to start a junk business, quit our corporate jobs, throw away our college educations, and basically become Sanford and Sons, people looked at us pretty skeptically and said, "You're crazy."
Right.
But we just wanted to try something different. We wanted to be our own boss, and there was a lot of people that said, "You're never going to make it. It's a silly idea. The name is kind of a silly name."
Yeah.
And we've always had a chip on our shoulder to really prove people wrong, and had a passion to kind of disrupt an industry. Junk hauling, you think of cigar chomping guys, the
like
cutoff
junkyards, like real,
and
dirty
so we wanted
wife
to
beater on.
change that image. You can call a 24/7 call center, truck shows up same day, gives you upfront pricing, gets all the stuff hauled out of your garage, your attic, your basement, and really provide a stress-free experience. And then we got into the moving business as well, and try to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you say people were like, you developed, were your folks on board, or were they also kind of the skeptical?
My folks were. They were on board with the idea. I think they felt, hey, if you're not happy with what you're doing, you're young, now's the time to do it. My mom, she had a small business, a furniture store here in Adams Morgan, which is not too far from here. And so, our dinner table conversations growing up was really all about the challenges of being a small business owner, entrepreneurship and stuff like that. So I had that opportunity to hear about business from her, and she motivated us and myself to start the business.
That's awesome, because my family was totally entrepreneurial. So it's the conversation that I've sort of developed, or even we were talking a little bit earlier about not even knowing what options are, right?
Right.
And so, but you kind of grew up with the concept, right?
Right.
You can create something, you can make it your own.
Well, exactly. And the problem with school, in my opinion, especially from elementary school to high school, is that everything's focused around following a system. This is how you do it, and the things that you learn in school, you really only apply about 0.5% of what you learn.
Right.
And when you think about it, the things they teach you don't work in the real world. Sure. And what happens is, a lot of kids are like, well, I don't want to be a scientist, I don't want to be a doctor, I don't want to be an engineer, so there's nothing for me to do. Right. And I was one of those people. And I got fortunate that I found something. But there's a lot of kids that fall through the cracks because they're like, well, I don't want to be a scientist, so there's nothing. They don't realize they're an entrepreneur. They might get into trouble, for whatever reason, entrepreneurs are wired a certain way to tend to get in trouble when they're young.
It's funny because like you're talking about trouble and like chips on your shoulder. Gary Vaynerchuk, who I follow kind of passionately, also was like school was not for him.
Right.
So we're obviously not advocating that school is bad, but it seems that like it's an alternative. You know, you have sort of a personality type maybe.
You know, the school is about following rules, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs are about breaking rules.
Yeah.
And it's not about breaking the law, but it's you know, disrupting things, right? Why are things been done the same way? Why is taxi cabs still doing things the same way?
Right.
Why do people still rent movies from Blockbuster? So being an entrepreneur is really about breaking the rules and breaking the way things have been done.
Right.
And when you think about it, school is the opposite. It's about following the rules,
Totally.
following the system.
So do you have any advice for young cats like that don't fit in a specific category? Because I know a lot of what you guys do is want to sort of give these college hunks, so to speak, an opportunity to develop their entrepreneurial skills.
Yep. Yeah, I mean that's a big.
Where are we, by the way, real quick?
Yeah. The Coast Guard flying by. So we're in an area of Washington D.C. called Kalorama. It's a really nice part of D.C. A lot of bigwigs live around here. What I like about it is just quiet. You don't hear all the fire trucks and
you get the helicopter
car horns. You do have the helicopter.
We are in D.C. after all.
Right.
And the Coast Guard helicopter.
Coast Guard one, yep. Sometimes you'll see the president or vice president flying over too. What were we saying?
We're talking about young entrepreneurs, cats that don't necessarily fit
right
in a specific.
Right. So, I mean, I think a lot of it is just is following your passion, and you know, if school doesn't work for you, doesn't mean that you don't have something that you can do later in life. I think the one thing that most successful entrepreneurs have is grit. You know, it's not about how smart you are, it's not about how much you know, it's not about how much money you have, but you know, the grittiest folks are usually the ones that are the most successful. I think that's something that Gary Vaynerchuk talks about a lot too.
Getting your hands dirty, putting in the work.
Putting in the work. Yeah, that's what it is. Yep.
I feel like that's it's a wonderful sort of thing to know, because like you can be lost, but you don't know what to do. It's just put your head down.
Yeah, I mean, look, you know, talk to folks that are successful. Get out of your comfort zone. Yeah. That's probably the one of the most important things is you know, the opportunities happen when you get outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, you know, the summer before my senior year that we started the business, my comfort zone was sitting on the couch playing video games all day. It wasn't going around in a beat up cargo van that had no air conditioning and hauling junk.
Right.
But you know, we did that summer, got out of our comfort zone, and
so what sort of motivated you to get off the couch?
Well, my mom said,
there you go.
Hey, you're not sitting on the couch, man. You got to get a job. You know, and I'd done all the typical college jobs, you know, waiting tables, working at the mall.
Right.
And I was like, I'm not doing that this year. I want to try something different. She had this beat up cargo van that she would use for her furniture store for deliveries. Borrowed that, put up some flyers around the neighborhood. Actually, this neighborhood being one of the first neighborhoods we put flyers in. And got a call that night saying, hey,
really?
I need some junk picked up.
So it's about doing, huh?
It's about doing it. Oh yeah.
Did you think when you started that summer with your mom's beat up van that you were going to grow an empire?
No, definitely not.
No.
Definitely not. It wasn't until, so I went back to school my senior year at Miami, and I enrolled in an entrepreneurship class. I didn't even know what an entrepreneur was. Until that summer, people were like, "Oh, this is a real entrepreneurial thing you're doing."
Right.
So what the heck is an entrepreneur?
So school is kind of important in some ways, where you can help define who you are in some ways.
And you know, I guess having said that school is not important, I wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't for the University of Miami, because I enrolled in this class and the professor made an announcement that there was a business plan competition open to the entire university, and that first place would get awarded $10,000.
Yeah.
And I told some of my friends at school, I was like, hey, I want to write a business plan for a company called College Hunks Hauling Junk.
Yeah.
And they said, man, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Sure.
You're never going to win. And I called my buddy, who's now my business partner, Nick.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, man, I'm thinking about writing this business plan, but people are saying it's not a good idea. He's like, dude, you could win that business plan. You need to do it.
Right.
Get out of your comfort zone. I was like,
so
okay.
Another thing, support. Somebody who believes in you. Somebody who's encouraging.
You know, the other thing is, like, you know, friends and family, when you are going to take some sort of risky venture, right? Whether it's start a business or whatever it might be, quit your job. You know, they might they may they don't want to. It's not that they don't want you to succeed. It's that they don't want to see you fail. Right? They love you. They have your best interest. So sometimes you're not going to get that support from friends and family, and you just have to, you know, push yourself and put that effort in. So anyway, wrote the business plan, and it ended up winning first place and $10,000, and I got a big Happy Gilmore check.
And the rest is history.
The rest is kind of history. I still came back to DC having done that and worked the business, but Nick and I both got corporate jobs up here in DC, and we were pretty miserable. We were working.
Speaking of miserable, because we're coming up on the end here, you're one of the smiliest guys I know.
I am?
Yeah.
You know,
you're always smiling. It's very positive energy.
I try. I like to smile, man.
That's
You
good.
gotta be positive always.
Before leaving the house, I said to my wife, what should I ask this guy? She said, ask him if he's happy. And I was like, what kind of question? And I was like, that's not a bad question.
I'm happy, you know. You're stressed at times, but overall pretty happy.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So we're coming up on the end. I have this thing called the wow moment, words of wisdom.
Okay.
I don't know, man, if you want to plug something or give a shout out or impart some wisdom.
Well, you know, being that I'm in DC, I gotta, and not too far from where my mom's store was, I gotta give a shout out to my mom, because if it wasn't for her van and her furniture store and being the small business owner that she was, I wouldn't be where I am today. So, Mom, Lynn Skyneer, this is for you. Thank you very much.
Can you say bye to the folks at home?
Bye, folks at home. Take it easy.
See you guys. Thanks for watching. See you next time.